One more, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome, good. So we're going to play this video. You guys can ask some questions as people are rolling in here. Share computer sound, perfect. Are you a dentist or dentist-to-be that wants to treatment plan your career to maximize happiness? My name is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman, and I want to help you do just that. Our dental journeys can be awesome, but they also at times can be annoying and awful and stressful and everything in between. And there are 4 major decisions you are going to make. And it's important to treatment plan these decisions so you can increase success, decrease stress, and reduce the number of times you feel like crying inside a day. These 4 major decisions are finding your first job, buying your first practice, hiring your first associate, and selling your only practice. The main thing I want to talk about are those decisions and the dashes in between. Like that classic story about what happens in the dashes of your life between the start and end of your life. What happens between these dashes? So let's talk about finding your first job. You're in dental school, residency, and you need to find your first job. What are the most important questions to ask? Why that practice is looking for an associate? What are you going to do? What procedures are you going to do at that job? How are you going to be compensated? Money is an important thing, not the most important thing. Patient-centered production, patient-centered care is how we should operate as dentists and humans. But there's debt, there's things you need to pay for, rent, food, buying nachos at times. So what kind of money are you going to make at this practice? Another question, where is this job and what fun things are there to do? One of the things that I want to impress upon you, like a dental impression, is that your life is more than just being a dentist. You have to find fulfillment outside the operatory. I've met too many dentists who've had their entire identity wrapped up with what they do each day. And it's important, but if it becomes your entire life, it can have a negative impact on your emotional health, your social health, your professional health. So it's important to have interest outside the operatory. So when you're looking for a job or looking to hire an associate, be able to ask and answer these 5 questions. Why are they looking for an associate? Why are they looking for someone for this job? How will you be paid? What procedures will they ask you to do most of the time? Where is the job located and what fun things are there to do in the area? So that's a checklist for success. Buying your first practice is the most important decision you will make in your life. As someone who helps dentists sell practices, they oftentimes have multiple houses, multiple spouses, but just one dental practice. So what that tells you is that decision influences your financial security, your family security, the type of dentistry you get to do. I just met a coaching client who's fantastic, but she bought a practice that was a PPO practice, and now she wants to do more fee-for-service dentistry. And should she have bought that practice to begin with? I'm not sure, I wasn't there. But did she treatment plan her life at that time for maximum happiness? So what I want to share with you is to be authentic on your dental journey, to make good decisions, to be someone who asks for help when you need it. Develop a team of advisors. Go to people who do this every day. Dental-focused accountants, dental-focused attorneys. Too often, dentists will burn their nachos and I'll say, how did this happen? And a lot of times it's not getting the right advice from the right person at the right time. So I'm so thrilled to be part of your journey in whatever way I can be. I want to be a helpful dentisting friend. So if you need me for any reason, do not hesitate to reach out. Hey everyone, welcome to our scary dental student debt webinar. We have the Batman of student loans, student loan planner, Dan Rucker is going to help us make you feel better about where you're at with your debt. He's going to present and you're going to ask him questions. If you're watching this live, you can ask questions in the chat. If you're watching this on demand, just shout the questions at the TV. Dan will hear you. Just kidding. You can reach out to us by texting us. There's 3 prizes you get for being here. 1, text KIND to 215-543-6454. You get a $143 free gift from Dental Nachos in honor of Mr. Rogers, 143, his favorite number. I love you. If you're thinking of buying a dental practice, you can get a free strategy call with our Dental Nachos team to tell you how to prepare. Just text BUY to 215-543-6454. And to get a consultation, find out how you can do that with our awesome key resource and sponsor, text loans to 215-543-6454. Dan, thanks so much for being here tonight. We're excited for your presentation.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks,
I
Paul.
want to just share before I stop sharing, let you share. People
Okay.
that love you, Dan, often give you terrible advice. Would you agree that people that love you sometimes give you terrible advice? Because in that last picture, you saw my daughter following her cousin around the most dangerous way to get in the house because they thought it was a good idea to climb up and go over tons of seashells as opposed to just walking up the steps. So oftentimes in this world of finances, buying practices, selling practices, finding jobs, the people closest to you who love you the most will give you terrible advice. So develop your own team. So proud to have you on the team, Dan. And I'm going to hand it over to you and we'll be back for some questions.
Okay, sounds good. And I couldn't agree more. It's hire a professional for these kinds of decisions.
I always wonder, like, nobody wants to make their own paella at home. They want the chef to make them paella the way they do it.
Right.
So when it comes to those important decisions, get yourself a professional paella maker. So I'll let you go on that, Dan. I'll be back in just a little while.
Cool. Sounds good. So I'm here to talk today about what we talk about every day at Student Loan Planner. And I thought I'd represent that with the theme of, we're coming up on Halloween. So throwing some stats at everybody watching this. If you go on Google, you'll see that this number might actually be outdated. This number is probably pretty low. 1.57 trillion was the number maybe a month ago. If you Google average student debt balance out there, the first thing that comes up is average undergrad student loan balance. I have that on the screen. And then average graduate student balance if you want to narrow it down. But it's really difficult to really understand what a lot of dentists and specialties within dentistry are experiencing if you don't have access to the numbers. And we do. These numbers on the right are our consults. We've taken an average of all the dentists that we've consulted. That's in the middle. We've taken an average of all the orthodontists we've consulted. That's in the lower right. And these numbers are very different than what you're going to find on Google. And these numbers are probably more representative of a lot of people watching this today. So, and these numbers are scary. Like, they're big numbers, especially when the income coming out, if you're not in a specialty, maybe in a big city where patient loyalty is low, but like demand is very high. Demand is not loyal, but supply is really high. Your peers, your competitors, your compensation might look like this as an associate dentist, and your debt might look like the average that we've seen from the dentists who have consulted with us. And if that's you and your income's $150,000, every 1st and 15th of the month, your paycheck after tax looks like the number at the bottom of the screen here. And maybe I ran this pay as if you were a dentist living in my city in Chicago. If you are in the state of Washington or another state like Texas that doesn't have state income taxes, then knock off that state income tax $300 number and it's maybe $300 higher. If you're in California and your income taxes are a little higher, then maybe knock down that $4,100 down to $3,900 or something like that. But net around this number, $8,000 per month is what you're getting in your checking account. And from that, you have to decide where that money goes. And a lot of times, it's going to go first to rent or the mortgage or something that your family needs. And if you're a newer graduate, you also have to pay your student loans. If you're thinking, one of the things for me, like when I go into a conversation with a consult, one of the scary things for me is someone who comes in without an open mind and is just thinking, I have to pay this down. If they come in with an open mind and they think they have to pay it down, then I might have a chance of convincing them that there's an alternative. And a lot of times in our consult, we're not convincing, but we're just presenting other alternatives to paying it down to zero. If you were going to pay it down to zero, what that would look like over 20 years at a better interest rate than the federal government is going to give you, maybe from a private lender, is in the far left-hand column. And I'm just going to go down the line one box at a time. So if you take your $400,000 loan and you refinanced it to get a better interest rate to a private lender, which is a one-way street, you can't change your mind, leaving the federal system, your flat monthly payment, which wouldn't change, it's not based off of your income, it's just this is the monthly payment that it would take to pay your loans off in 20 years, $2,300. So $8,000 coming into your checking account over the course of 1 month, $2,300 goes out the door for your student loans, and the rest of it towards other things in life. And that monthly number is something that you can't understand unless you're the person making the payment. If you are someone who, went to dental school 40 years ago and paid off your dental school loans within 5 years, like that person can't quite understand what you're going through to make that payment. And that's a payment that's like a mortgage. It doesn't go away for 20 years. If you make that payment for 20 years, you're paying a total of $556,000. So that's the deal. If you're thinking, I need to pay this down to zero, that's a pretty good deal, low interest rate. Compare that to one of the federal income-driven plans, and I'm just going to talk about that one in the middle, and we can leave the one on the far right for Q&A later. But the one in the middle is an income-driven plan that started in 2012, and it says whatever your income was last year, that's going to be your payment for the next 12 months. And if you're a fourth-year dental student and you can prove what your income was last year while you were still in dental school, aka file a free tax return to prove that your income was zero, then your payments for your first year out of dental school will be zero for 12 months. And then your payments for the subsequent 12 months would be whatever your income was if you worked for part of the year. Say you graduated middle of the year and you worked for half the year. And then the next 12 months, the third set of 12 months, it would be based off of a full calendar year's worth of income. And what that represents to, what that could represent to you and what I'm thinking about in my mind is I have 12 months of $0 payments and another 12 months of payments based off of half of my income. And that's 24 months opportunity to build cash for things like having a cash cushion in general, having a cash cushion to buy a practice as well, and building financial security by saving in other accounts besides cash accounts. If you take your payments and you roll them forward for 20 years in total on a plan like this, assuming that your income is the same exact as in the far left-hand column, your total for your payments would be $326,000. And your balance at that point in time would be forgiven. The way the rules are currently today, that balance is forgiven and assessed taxes. That balance is forgiven and added to your income in that 20th year. If you add those two numbers together, 326,000, and that number near the bottom in the middle, 189,000, you get to 516,000 over the same time period as the deal on the left. The difference between the two is the deal in the middle within the federal system at the higher interest rate ends with you paying less than the deal on the right over the same time period. We might spend some time on this slide back in Q&A, so I'm going to just go from there to the next slide to talk about the tax bill. And I'll talk about that plan in the middle, the pay-as-you-earn plan. So this is just my overlay. The rules are this screen. My overlay in a console might be to think about that tax bill at the end as potentially not there. And how I think about that is the pay-as-you-earn plan was started in December of 2012. It's a 20-year plan. So the first group of borrowers who are going to get their loans forgiven on that plan, if they're following it, is going to be probably the calendar year 2033. And their loan servicer is going to say, great, your loans are forgiven, congratulations. And maybe for them, not listening to this webinar, not having talked to a certified student loan professional, they think that it's over, it's gone. But what they would get at the end of the year from the IRS is a tax form that's going to say, add $473,000 to your income this year and pay taxes on it. And there are under 200 certified student loan professionals out there. There are over 46 million borrowers. There's no way we can talk to all of them. A lot of people are going to be thinking about the payment they experience, which is that $1,000 number at the top, or the payment they experience on the right. And they're not going to be thinking about this tax bill. They're not going to be saving for it. And what we recommend in all of our consults is that if you have something that you are pretty sure is going to be there at the end, and it's a big, large number, you can save for it, I would do that. So save for it, and worst case, there's a tax bill. Best case, there's no tax bill because the majority of the voting population at that time hasn't saved for a tax bill, and maybe there are some changes that you'll see happen in 2033 or 2034 that reflect that. But if you're you watching this and you're thinking, I'm comparing between the column on the left and the column in the middle, and you look at that tax bill, maybe think, plan on it being there, but if it's not there, then that's extra cash that you have. And if we think about it that way, then the total amount you've paid is the numbers in the blue boxes towards those plans versus paying it down to zero. And, you know, there's no forgiveness on that side. So that's how we think about the decision around your student loans. I gave an example in a vacuum of someone who was single, someone who made income going up at 3% a year, 150K going up at 3% a year. That's not everybody in this audience. And then with a loan balance of 400,000, that could be very different. This is just general information, an example of how it could work. It gets a lot more complicated if your spouse also has student loans, or you have different specialties, or you have different trajectories, or whatever it may be. So I gave like a really simple example, but hopefully it illustrates one thing that, you know, scares me when people make decisions around their finances. When it comes to debt, what scares me is that some people just make the decision without being informed. And this is not a small decision. It's a mortgage-sized decision, and you know, go into it, make it in an informed way, and then move forward, move past it. And that's what we help do. If you want free stuff, you can go to our website. You can check out our calculators where you can use the calculators to model your situation. If you want to read free stuff, we have an awesome blog where you can dial it down by occupation and filter through for stuff for dentists. If you want to talk to humans and hire us, we're here at Student Loan Planner. If you have questions that you want us to answer, we do group answer them. You can email help@studentloanplanner.com. And Paul, I'll hand it back to you.
That was one of the best and most succinct presentation I've seen. I'll leave this up so people can take a screenshot of it. I'm going to share something in a minute here too on my end. So you can stop share if you don't mind, or I'm just going to outshare you since I think I'm the host. So I can just take over sharing power whenever. It's one of the big things being the host. So if you would like to connect with Student Loan Planner, you can do that by texting loans to 215-543-6454. If you just want free stuff, you can text KIND to 215-543-6454. If you'd like strategies on buying a practice, text BUY to 215-543-6454. So we got a lot more people coming into the webinar as it went on here. I just want to see if we have any questions. You guys can ask some questions, but I have some questions to ask. I'm going to stop share here for a minute. So Dan, it seems nacho nuts that the best plan for people could not be to pay off their loans in full, but I'm just sort of reconfirming that that can be the best plan for people. And I know the best answer from you is it depends, just like a dental treatment plan, but most of the time, what's the loan total on those who are not going to be paying it off in full?
Yeah, most of the time, the loan total is greater than your income times 1.25. So whatever your income is going to be, if you're in a specialty, take it, multiply it by 1.25. If your loan total is greater than that, probably should run the numbers. And it's probably going to result in paying less than paying it down to zero.
You're making 200 and you're not making over 325,000, 350,000, 400,000. If your loan total is over 400,000, it makes sense to do this. Now tell us so I got a lot of dentist people here. I got an awesome new dentist who was here on Sunday visiting me in person. He's a great guy. I don't want to violate Zoom HIPAA. I take it very seriously. I will not violate Zoom HIPAA. I'm not like reading Rainbow here where I see Bob. There's no one named Bob here. Tell me though, if you are going to buy a practice, how does that affect your ability to buy a practice? Not at all, a little bit, emotionally. Bank, someone has $700,000 in student loan debt and they want to go buy a practice. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, when buying a practice, make sure you're hooked up with the right dental broker, the right banker, all those people that are in that circle with you. But what they're looking at, the loan officer is going to be looking at your debt to income ratio. And your debt to income ratio has to do with what your payment is, not what you're paying, but what your required payment is. So if you're on an income driven plan, your required payment is based off of how much you make. If you are paying it down to zero, your required payment on a private loan is whatever the term says it is. It doesn't care about your income. So a lot of people, if they owe a lot more than they make, like say you make twice, you owe 2 times what you make, your payment based off of your income is probably going to be a lot lower than a 20-year payback number. Kind of like I showed earlier, I showed $2,000 for paying it back in 20 years and $1,000 based off of your income. A banker is going to see that and go, your debt to income ratio on that income driven plan, no matter how big the loan balance is, looks a lot better to me because that's what you're required to pay.
Really appreciate you sharing that. As a broker, I just was actually at a broker conference, and banks have seem to be even sometimes more flexible as just a general trend in loaning to dentists, which is helpful for practice ownership. But there's a lot of emotions involved in life, right? So I'm 44, and for years, certain fitness trends would just be terrible now, right? Working out for 3 hours, only working out for 45 minutes now. Also, you're talking to dentists who are high achievers. Just talk to me. I'm just more curious about this on your consults. Mm-hmm. Do you struggle to get across to people who are used to checking boxes, winning races, getting good grades, that the best thing to do is not to pay off this debt? Does that bother some of them from an emotional standpoint?
I would say that I think that we spend a good, if I didn't spend time getting to know that person and building a baseline with them at the beginning, building trust and slowly by proving out little things before the big picture, that showing the big picture, like I did in this presentation, would be a little more difficult. But spending that time to build that trust along the way and proving out little calculations is kind of like, so I can get to the point to say, you don't have to finish your food on this plate. You can actually leave this plate like half finished. It's actually okay.
Once trainer said, eating fat's okay. I just eat guacamole at all times. That's all I hear. Yeah. Just guacamole every meal. Now tell us, let's say someone's watching this and people watch this on demand. And my goal is for people to JFO, just find out. I have awesome dentist Nachos who follow everything we do. And they say that what you guys do is the best sponsor I have at Dental Nachos. We got a lot of other sponsors. We love them too. They said, you guys are the best. You helped me and my wife. You did these things. I'm so glad I met you through Dental Nachos, a key resource and sponsor. What happens on this consultation call? What's the cost in general? What's the range, the cost in general for it?
Sure. The what happens on the consult? Borrowers send us their student loan data file from studentaid.gov. We take that loan file, we translate it through our Excel macros. We spit out a report. Then we go through that report with them over the course of the hour to help them understand where their loans came from, what they have, what they own, what they owe, and then taking that through the 9 federal payment plans that are out there, and then throwing in refinance loans as well, just as an option at the end. And really, like most dentists we're talking to, we're spending the majority of that consult proving out all of the payment plans in the federal system that don't work, and then outlining the plan that does work, comparing that to the next best alternative, sending them home with an email, bullet point action list. This is what you need to do to change your path, or this is what you need to do to stay on the path that you're on coming in. And what that costs.
Go ahead, keep going. Sorry. Tell us the cost.
$395 if you owe less than $200,000. That's not a lot of dentists. $495 if you're in the $200,000 to $400,000 range. $595 if you're above $400,000 in debt.
This is insane. Your pricing, just double it tomorrow. I mean, what you're doing for dentists is too good at this price point. For the dentists out there, $495 is like one day of your vacation, and you can take more vacations if you learn how money works. So I always talk about the impact, right? Always about the impact. You take dentists from crying to being happier. In doing this, right? You don't want to cry on the inside. What are some stories where people are like, I'm so glad I invested $495. Now I am saving $49,500. Now I can buy a practice. Do you have these success stories as part of your daily Dan life?
every day. And you know, I spend a lot of my time working with the $0 to $200,000 range, and I still see those numbers that big, where you know we're typing up that email at the end and we're saying, hey, the best option on paper or the best option for you, whichever one it really is, you know, is paying this much towards this loan strategy. The next best alternative costs you $50,000 more. And
so for $495, you save them $50,000. You can do a lot with $50,000 in terms of buying practices, treating yourself to certain things, preparing for stuff, taking care of family expenses, all because you told them the rules of how this whole game works, which are nearly impossible to find out on your own. Because you guys, it's like you would know how to. You could read the bonding bottle for a filling, Dan, but you would just mess it up completely. So I'm sure that people could read these things, but unless you're the type of person like you and Travis and Megan, who are reading these things and doing these things every day, it's just not practical for the non-loan layperson. And you said there's only 200 professionals doing this for how many borrowers?
For over 46 million borrowers, yeah, maybe 170 certified student loan professionals, last I checked. Last time I emailed them and asked.
If you want to be like my wife who says, I'm so glad I met you, Paul, every day, just joking, doesn't say that. Just text loans to this number and get yourself a consultation to see if you're doing the right thing, awesome, that's well worth $495. And if there's an opportunity for you to save, then do that. I think we did get it. When we talked so long, we got a Q&A question here. Should I be getting this consultation before graduating dental school or after getting the first job and knowing what I'll be making?
I would do this consultation 3 weeks after you graduate. Before you get that first job, in case you didn't file your tax return and you need to say, my current income is zero.
So 3 weeks
after
graduation is the ideal time. But of course, if it's 3 years after graduation, just like my friend who I spoke about, still reach out to you. It's never too late to make a good decision. That's my motto. It's never always beating guacamole, and it's never too late to make a good decision. Those are the two things I live by. Awesome, Dan. Well, I really appreciate you sharing. I just want to share how people can contact you guys one more time. Thanks so much. This was so concise, so great. If you're watching with us live, I truly appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I hope you learned something. If you're watching with us on demand, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. The best way to do that is through our text hotline. You can text KIND to 215-543-6454 to get a free prize. Text BUY to that same number to find out about a practice, and text loans to connect with Dan and his team. Thanks.